record. All right. So we're doing a mashup between All Things with Ashley and Advocacy Academy. Advocacy Academy is a Facebook group where I will be going live to share information with people about assisted living facilities, home and community-based services, and any other residential care service that I may assist with. What I would like to do is to get people interested, pique their interest so they'll go join the group, and then have people who are experienced, such as yourselves, go in from time to time and just go live about things that you know that people should be doing, things that you know that are not only in compliance, but in the best interest of the individuals that we are serving. So I'm grateful to have both of you here today. Thank you for taking your time out. I don't take for granted the work that you all are doing. Even though I've never been on that side of it, just being on the side that I was on, it's a tall order to be a provider. So let me introduce both of you. I don't even know who to start first, but we're gonna pick one, okay? Yeah. Okay, C-Hud. Charles Hudson here, CEO of A-Voice LLC, and Denise Reagor, CFO of A-Voice LLC. I am really excited to have both of them here because you couldn't meet two people better suited for serving other people. They have really good hearts. They understand what service means. They understand what doing things in decency and order means, and they have a way of getting things done. So I think I'm nervous. Let me go.
No.
So, okay. So let me say a little bit about A-Voice, and then I'll let you all kind of introduce yourselves and your backgrounds, okay? So y'all are the founding members of A-Voice LLC, which provides services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities through the HCS, which is Home and Community-Based Services, and the Texas Home Living Programs, correct?
Correct. It is.
Between you two, I know y'all at least 30 years of experience. Plus Miss Sharon.
Right, yeah.
There's got to be another 30.
Yes.
So 60 years of experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Y'all are vets, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so your mission is to be a voice and advocate for individuals that need supports and guidance in their everyday lives. So I love that you put your name in the mission. Love that. And then one of your goals is to reach, teach, and encourage, which I want one of you all to speak on that. And then you're serving counties, Dallas, Tarrant, Collin, Denton, Ellis, and Harris. I didn't know about Harris. Congratulations.
Quite a bit, yeah.
And Rockwall and Texoma.
Rockwall, Coffin, yeah.
Okay.
we had two contracts that were added, I believe, last year. So yeah, we definitely update the website.
Please do. Okay. So one of y'all talk about the mission, how you came up with the mission, and then the other talk about the reach, teach, and encourage. I'll let you decide.
Okay. So the mission is very simple, and it's reach, teach, and encourage. That came from a place of serving and understanding that every individual is going to be different. So in order to ensure that every individual's needs are met, we need to come to their level, right? We need to come to their demographics. We need to come where they are intellectually. We need to come and see what they are expecting in this in the community in terms of the services that they're receiving from ACS. So that's how we reach them, right? And so once they come into A-Voice, we teach them, we encourage them that there's so much out there in the community and so many resources that you can really take part of, but we need to walk you through this. So a lot of people have come to our agency, and we have shown them that there's a lot of resources within the community. We also live by this as well internally as managing members, not just for the individuals that we're serving. We may look at each other and be like, you know what, how am I reaching? How am I teaching? How am I encouraging someone within the inner parts of a voice before I go out and spread that mission to the individuals that we serve. So I feel if you keep it very simple, and you can be focused at all times. And if you have a foundation such as we do, it's easy to spread that mission, reach, teach, and encourage.
Absolutely.
And then who came up with the mission? Who, that was a joint effort, or did?
It's joint effort. Yeah, we do
collectively.
Collectively, everything we do, there's 4 managing members, but we make one voice. We have several different people on our census, but it's still one voice. And that's why you get the name A Voice, because there's not one person that is making a decision. We trust each other. We depend on each other. We encourage each other. So everything that we do here at A Voice, it's a collective effort.
Yeah, and we pray.
Absolutely.
You know, everything starts with prayer, even, you know, just getting to the mission and getting to the reach, teach, and encourage, and even the name, you know, A Voice, you know, that comes from a spiritual place. So it's a secret that, you know, our foundation comes from God, you know, it's spiritual. So prayer in every single thing. And, you know, from us doing that, that's how we're able to come together collectively and get the mission and get the motto and just serve and function the way that we do.
Okay. So there's order.
There's order.
There's order, definitely order.
In a world and in a time where order is not honored on a lot of levels, that's honorable, that there's a system and a path in which you do things, and it honors each one of you all and the clients that you serve and the individuals you serve. So that is to be appreciated, and it's a good model. It's a great model. Whether you're religiously affiliated or not, just having some sort of ordering system where you consider all of the persons that your stakeholders, everybody that's involved.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I kind of got excited there. So give me a little bit about each one of your backgrounds. Denise, you start.
Okay, so my background is in social work, bachelor's level social work, and also a license in social work. So I've done case management in, you know, foster care, adoption. I got my start working for the local authority back in 2008. And so that's where the experience working with intellectual developmental population comes from. There, I did that for years. Took a little bit of a break around the year 2010, and I worked as a case manager at the AIDS Foundation in San Antonio, only to come right back to the root of it all in 2011, and just been doing that ever since. A little small, another break in there, and worked in regulatory for what was then the Department of Aging and Disability Services, but I only did that for maybe about a year and a half, and then went right back to the population. So it definitely just keeps calling me. So I'm sticking with it now. And we've had A Voice since 2017, that was inception. And now we're in 2020. So we recently actually just celebrated our 5-year anniversary as a company. So, you know, it seems like, you know, I'm here to stay in this population with this group. Thank you.
Okay. All right. 5-year anniversary. All right. Okay. And Charles, where started?
Very similar. I started off at MetroCare in the general revenue department, where it is low funding, right? And so what I had the opportunity to do is meet with those families and say, you know, you're still on the wait list to receive some phenomenal services in the near future. However, this is what you can receive right now. So just starting out in that general revenue department as a service coordinator, I fell in love with being in the field. I fell in love with being with families and building that rapport with families and see them transition out of general revenue to other Medicaid waiver services. I loved it. And so from general revenue, I went to ACS enrollment, and that's where everything changed, where I got to see what that Medicaid waiver program was about, because guess what? I got to bring good news to these families by telling them, you finally came up on this list. You know what I mean? Families are waiting anywhere from 8 to 10 years to receive ACS services. And, you know, they were able to hear from me as I represented MetroCare Services in the ACS enrollment department. So I did that about 2 years, and then what took place, there was a shift where they took the case management portion away from the provider and they gave it to the LITs. And so they brought that to MetroCare, and I was one of the first supervisors at MetroCare when they opened up that department. Love that. Work with some incredible people, incredible case managers at MetroCare. Then I left MetroCare and I went to DADS, because coming from local authorities, you heard about DADS, and you got those phone calls and all the time and emails from DADS. So I was always curious and seeing how far I could go. That's just my personality anyway. So opportunity came for me to go and work for DADS, and I was a program manager at DADS and regulatory for 3 years, but I was just behind the desk. And
Right.
I miss being in the field. I miss the IDD population. I miss being out. So I got an opportunity to go work for a private sector. I did that for about 3 years, and a lady came up to me and she was just like, God said that you're about to start a company and you need to start. And so when things like that take place, I'm a man of God, so I take things like that close to my heart. Immediately, I know it was time for me to start something else, and we did that. Denise Reagor, Sharon O'Boyle, and Debbie Hudson, the 4 founding managing members of A Voice. We started with nothing. We prayed, we met, and we met, and we met, and we created, and here we are, 5 years later, with A Voice growing strong.
That's a good story. That's a good thing to recant, just how you have both built upon your knowledge just by years of working in the industry, and how even though you've been in the industry years, like there's no burnout. Like we're gonna stay here. This is us.
Right.
We're gonna figure it out. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. Shout out to Sharon O'Boyle. Shout out to Sharon. I worked at Health and Human Services with Miss Sharon. Miss Sharon is
she's cut from a different
wealth
cloth.
of knowledge. Yeah, wealth of knowledge, solid, passionate, compassionate, all of it.
Yeah, she's good people. If there was ever good people, she is good people. And she taught me a lot. I went on survey with her once, and she changed the whole game for me on how I would do my surveys. And I just patterned myself after her. And I loved it. So
yeah, she's awesome. She's phenomenal.
Yep. So, okay. So for those of you all who are like, do they know each other? Yes, we know each other.
Absolutely.
Kind of work in the same spaces. We worked at MetroCare. We worked at Health and Human Services, which used to
all of it
together. Yes, and I'm always going to keep my friends and the people that I know are doing good work in the forefront. So yeah, they'll be on here some more time. Remember their faces. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I kind of want to take a dive into what HCS is, and not just the standard, this is what Health and Human Services says HCS is. Like, I really want you to talk about your experiences from developing relationships with individuals and how you're managing just the experience of running this provider, okay? So with that being said, I guess my first question is, what made you all say we're going to stick with HCS, especially with the fact that, there are issues with Medicaid funding and all this other stuff going on? Like, what made you say, okay, we just gonna do it?
It's our calling. It's more than just work to us. I really believe that all 4 of us have servants' hearts, and we want to make sure that we're serving other individuals, and we really believe God has put us in position to do that. In terms of HCS, it's a great program. You probably heard the analogy, it's the Cadillac of all services, right? And it is. There's some other good Medicaid waiver programs out there. It is, but HCS is near and dear to my heart. so many stories, but one thing that sticks out about HCS is the foster care companion aspect of HCS. We have some of the best foster
Families.
home and companion care providers in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
I promise you, I'm not just saying that. These individuals that have taken 2 to 3 people in their home and made them part of their family, it will warm your heart. We've seen people come in from different agencies, not knocking the other agencies or other host home providers, but sometimes it just needs to be the good fit. And sometimes it's hard to be to have the right fit with the host home provider and that individual. So you know where it starts? It starts with knowing your individual.
Yeah.
You can't just put anybody with anyone, right? So you have to know your individual. You have to know their likes, their dislikes, their triggers, their medications, their behaviors, their tics. You have to know that individual. I feel that what we've done at A Voice, we know our individuals. So it's easy for us to make that transition and put them in the appropriate home. And we have some host home providers that have traded in expensive luxury cars just to go get an SUV so they can have enough money to take these individuals to work, to extracurricular activities, to doctor's appointments. There's countless other stories. I made a post last night. We have an individual that is in the HCS program. She has 2 children. Okay, she has 2 children, and she's of age, and she can't live on her own. Right. She still needs that guidance. So this host home provider was so wonderful and said, I'm taking not only her and going to provide host home, but I'm going to care for those children as well. You don't find that. Anyone just isn't going to do that, right? And so she was out last night just having a great time. And I made a post last night because a lot of times with individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities, we want to control their lives. Right. We want to tell them what they can do and what they can't do and what they should do. What we like to do with our voices, what do you want to do? How can we help you obtain that goal? And so she was out last night with the family just having a great time, and they just sent me a picture. And I was just like, look at this. This is like a perfect example of someone who is living her best life within the HCS program. So within HCS, I think it's very important to have good host home and foster care companion, and then also CFC staff. You have to have good staff. You have to have good staff in order for these goals to make sense. And as well as the therapies and other supports that come along with it. And as you know, it's a lifelong program, which I think is great. And it goes with them throughout the state of Texas. So it's just a really great program. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah, that and like Charles said, the individuals themselves, even though, like I mentioned, for me, trying to go and work in other populations or thinking that, oh, I want to work with children. I think that, children have this big need, but working with this population, I was able to learn that they have the need too. And not all of them are children, like they're adults, but and they're most misunderstood. And having and knowing, kind of personally, sometimes what that feels like to want to be able to say something or have a thought, but you can't quite get it together. The dots aren't connecting like they should. And you're frustrated on the inside because you're like, I have a point, but nobody understands me. And I just need to get it out. So many of our individuals, they feel the same way. And they just need somebody that's going to take the time, like Charles said, and meet them where they are and try to pay attention. And it's like, what is it that you're trying to say? What is it that you're trying to express? We don't want anybody telling us how to live our lives. They don't either. And they just need somebody that's going to listen, that's going to pay enough attention to find out what they want. And I feel like we do that in the families that we've been blessed with. They do it too. Even our staff, CFC, Transportation Respite, they're all patient. We have some people that are patient like you would not believe, outside of just the work that goes into the hours of service. If that person takes ill or needs something separately, like they will do it off the clock with nobody asking them to. They'll go and visit them in the hospital. They'll go by the house to do something extra for them that's outside of the realm of service. And we couldn't ask for better. Just couldn't.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. For those who are not familiar with how HCS works, Basically, individuals who have intellectual and developmental disabilities go on to a waiver program through Medicaid that pays for them to have residential care, nursing services, therapies, and other services that are allotted under this specific Medicaid waiver program. So when you hear them talk about foster care or host home, which is what it's called, or CFC, they're talking about two different components of care. So if they're in someone else's home, it's host home or foster care. And then if they're in their own home and they receive assistance from an aide or a caregiver that comes by and helps them do things in the community, whether it be travel or shopping or what activities they may want to do. So I wanted to put that in there for those who are not familiar with how the program works. Right?
Absolutely.
So one thing that I noted that both of you were saying, and I'm putting it into terminology, is person first.
Yeah, yes.
Person first. Everything is based upon what that individual needs, what that individual faces in terms of barriers, what that individual desires in terms of activities or their life or whatever it may be. And you said that you get to know them. So in the spirit of getting to know them in that person first planning, so to speak, what are you using outside of obviously interviewing them and talking with them and just becoming in relationship with them? What type of tools do you use to collect that data and to kind of understand it?
That's a good question. I can't even say it's tools. I would say it's more of an observation. And I think our background with being service coordinators and case managers, you kind of just pick up observation and really listening to that individual. What's key is time. If you're not willing to put in the time just to listen or go visit, go get a bite to eat, take a walk with them and just see who they are, you won't know. And patience is another thing, like Denise had mentioned earlier. You know, a lot of times it's difficult for them to connect the dots. They don't know how to express themselves. So you really have to be patient and give them time and the opportunity to be able to do that. So with patience and with observation, you get to really understand who that person is, right? There's some individuals where we can say, you know what, it's this day of the month, they're about to call. Because we know at a certain time, something's going on and we expect it. You know what I mean? And Health and Human Services, and formerly known as DADS, they always talked about that person-centered planning, right? But you have to kind of even go beyond the documentation and really sit with that person and get to see who they are. And I think once you see that, you'll be able to see what they really need, and you'll be able to put the resources in place to make them be as independent as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Charles, he's not giving himself enough credit. Before they even come into the door, like the families will contact, you know, him because he's the point of contact when someone's getting ready or expresses an interest in wanting to come over to A Voice. And so he'll spend, you know, like sometimes multiple days, or I think some of more recent people that have come on board with us, like he had been in communication with them for months prior, just not only finding out things about the individual, but also the person that's taking care of them. Or even if it was a family that's like, hey, I have them right now, but I just don't think that I'm going to be able to continue. So tell me about some of the families you guys already have in place. We want to make sure it's a good fit. So not only finding out about the person, but he finds out about the loved one as well, to make sure that everybody's at ease when they do come over, especially if they're not going to continue in their natural homes. So like I said, time. He ain't giving himself enough credit on what actually goes into the background of before they even come on board. It's a process. It's months long, it's weeks long, it's days. It's him, you know, just sitting back on the phone, getting those multiple calls, responding to those text messages, responding to those voicemails. So, and when they come on board, like everybody pretty much knows what they need to know about the person.
Okay. So I'm going to point out that observation, patience, time are all tools that we do not use to our advantage. And when I say tools, I don't necessarily mean a piece of paper, or I mean things that you use that has created the system and the order that you all are following. So I want you to take a moment to actually acknowledge what Denise said, that you don't give yourself the credit you should when it comes to, like, I've seen you, I've heard you, I've referred people to you. Oh, tell them to call me. And you 20, 30-minute conversations with people you don't know, giving them resources just off the blue. Oh, call this person or do this. So to me, that's intake.
It's definitely intake.
Yeah, that's real.
If you really want to put it all together, it's intake.
Yeah, that's intake. Now, however you formalize it, whether it's a database or a form or whatever, that's intake. That's in-depth intake that a lot of us are not really understanding when it comes to just business, period, and developing relationships with people we do business with.
Right.
How we develop relationships, how we conduct just introducing ourselves and serving others speaks volumes to the type of business that you are.
Right.
The service is there, we see it, but the business is important too, because if the business isn't running right, the service isn't running right.
Right. And it's important. I tell people when they call, hey, this is who I am.
Right.
This is what you're gonna get. You know, this is who the managing members are. That's my spiel. And I tell them, if you decide, because everyone has a choice, if you decide to come to a voice, you'll see for yourself. You'll see for yourself. So I do spend that time prior to even, them even selecting a voice as a provider, of kind of telling them my background and my counterparts' backgrounds, and tell them where we are. It's important to know. And I think that helps their families make that decision as well.
Absolutely. So once, you've done your intake and you develop that relationship, and they're like, okay, I'm choosing you as my provider. This is what we're doing. As you are acclimating them to your processes and you're acclimating to their processes at the same time, is that a part where all of you all come together? Are you assigning them to a case manager? So, like, what happens after?
They get assigned. Debbie Hudson, she's our director of case manager, and we also have another case manager who recently just joined the team as well. So after the intake aspect of it, you're definitely going to get assigned, and we talk. We meet weekly, and we sit down and we're forthcoming with one another. This is the individual. Hey, these are the meds. These are some behaviors we may need to look out to. This is what doctors that they go to. Hey, they're expecting therapy. Let's go ahead and start working on therapy. Hey, who's the rep payee? Do we need to become rep payee? Okay. And we just after the intake, it's like admission internally with us, because we're about to admit this individual and add this person to a caseload. So the case management department is involved, finance is involved, as well as the nursing department's involved as well.
Basically have your own internal interdisciplinary team. So
Absolutely.
Finance, you got nursing, you got case management, you got just general business.
Everybody's involved. It's a flow to it. It kind of goes like this, and then we have to make sure at the end, did we close the loop? Is the person set? Their files, everything together, so they don't, get filed away, if you will, until we make sure that everything's good to go, and making sure the services are on track to start within that first 90-day period. We can't let anybody get out of that time frame to where they haven't at least started one or more services that's on that plan. So everybody's involved.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually love that, because sometimes, and we've been in enough provider offices ourselves and been in meetings and all this other stuff where we know that there is a disconnect between the different departments of this organization, and you see it reflect in the services of the individual. So it's very good to know that you all have that interdisciplinary team mindset, even just in your admission process, because it makes a difference in the service for that individual, for sure. For sure. So now, one thing that I often get asked about is, okay, so If an individual gets HCS and I'm their provider, am I providing all of their services? Am I supposed to be the one to, do I have to hire an OT? Do I have to hire a PT? Do I contract? Like they don't understand the concept of it. So Denise, if you could kind of just break down the concept of what services you have, and if you're outsourcing those services or are those internal staff?
Okay, so during the intake process, if you will, Charles finds out, if they're coming on board with their own providers, like if they have their own dentist, if they're receiving speech, occupational, physical therapy. Do you already have a relationship with someone? If they say yes, then we contract with whoever they have at the time. And if they say, no, we're in need of someone, we think about who we already have, like contractual agreements with, to see if they will be a good fit for that person. So we're fortunate enough to where we already have people on contract for almost any service that you can think of, like even dietary, which is not something that's very common. But if someone were to come and they needed a dietitian, we have a contract with a dietitian. So first we find out if they have existing relationships already, because we don't want to break that. We don't want to say, well, you have this person, but we really think you should use ours. We find that out first. Most of the time they do. And there have been times where they do not, and we've had to link them with someone that we already had existing, or put our ear back to the ground and find out what they need. So again, it goes back to that. We know that we want that person to have started their services, all of them, if possible, within the first 90 days. So in order to do that, we have to get to work right away.
Right. So y'all basically have your resource list or your affiliate list, and you say, okay, well, we got this many speech therapists, this many dentists, this many. These are the people that you vetted.
Yep.
They're gonna provide the service. Okay. Okay. Now, in terms of your nursing, and at some point, I'm gonna try to get Ms. Sharon to come in and talk about her nursing.
Yeah.
I would love
that would be good. She would love it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a whole hour, just her.
yeah.
But in terms of your nursing, so for the most part, everybody who comes through your program receives an assessment, a nursing assessment, to be if they need any type of medical related assistance. But could you cover what the nurse does, what the nurse reviews, and how that affects their services?
So for us, like you mentioned, Ms. Sharon, she's very hands-on. So when Charles mentioned that we have our meetings to talk about them, like before a person transfer meeting, if you will, even takes place, like he'll bring what he knows to our meeting just to kind of talk about it and let us know, like you mentioned, medications and what medical needs that he's been able to find out thus far. So our nurse, makes a note of that. So kind of going in, even before laying eyes on the person or having that first initial conversation, she kind of knows. And then going out and meeting them is definitely hands-on assessment, looking at them, full body, finding out what's going on. And not only just the person, again, talking to the caregiver, like finding out what they know, finding out what they need, like what's been some barriers for them to get the needs of this person met, and building that relationship with the family so that they can feel like they have somebody, because there's been times where the families have been so frustrated, even moved to tears, because they're like, we just don't know what to do. Like, we've been telling people things about what's been going on with them medically. Nobody's listening. We've been asking for, somebody to reach out to the primary care physician to get them referred to a specialist. Nobody's listening. On this side, our nurse takes pride in doing that. She's linked so many people to different specialists that they've been needing for a while. And then not only just linking them there, but she does the follow-up, comes back around and says, hey, is it being done? And she keeps us in the loop to where we all even know. So I think that's what our nursing process looks out like. Not only finding out about the person initially, going out there and putting eyes on them, assessing them from top to bottom. Yes, completing the nursing assessment that needs to be completed according to the rules, but also sitting down and talking to that family member. So her assessments could take on the up end of an hour to two, because she's not just looking at the person, filling out the paperwork, and then out of the door. She's truly sitting down and assessing them and talking to those families to find out what they need as a whole.
And hers, what Health and Human Services expectation is one thing. Sharing expectation is another.
Yeah.
Right.
It's another. And it's her passion.
Yep.
It's what drives her to ensure that these individuals are educated. So as Denise said, comprehensive nursing assessment, CNA, right? That needs to get done. Sharon has to determine if medication is going to be delegated. You know what I mean, to the individual. Can this individual administer their own medicine? You know what I mean? She's going to make sure that whoever is taking medication, can you do this yourself, or do I need to train someone to do it?
Right.
A perfect example, we have an individual that's in CFC, has her own apartment, but she has had a history of not being compliant with taking medication for several years before she transferred in to a voice. We went to go buy her pill minders. She can't read. We made logos on the pill minders. So that's where that reach, teach, and encourage comes in. We're going to come up with a way to simplify things to make sure that the individual understands. Now this lady is taking her medications, and it was about taking that time, understanding, okay, she can't read, but she understands what those pills are. She can recognize the pills, but she can't tell the time either, really. So Sharon was like, let me just break it down like this. Let me step back. Let's do pill minders. I can't put Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday on it, or noon, you know what I mean, AM or PM. So let me put a sun. Let me put a moon. Let me come up with another logo for that noon medication or that evening. And she's great with stuff like that. And her training is phenomenal. Her special needs training, her delegation training, all the trainings that she gets, and she spends hours with the families to make sure that they get it, like hours. There was a family that called crying, and we have a lot of families that cry with Sharon, I'm gonna be honest, because of what she does. It was a person that was bedbound, like they were in a huge bed, right? Sharon got in the bed to do the assessment with the person. And the father just cried and was like, no one has ever not even the PCP, has ever taken the time to do that complete assessment. So she's great. She's great. So like I said, it's an expectation with Health and Human Services that we go by, but then it's Sharon's expectation too.
Listen, y'all, you make sure you tell Miss Sharon to videotape and train the world, because that's how
they would benefit from it. Let me tell you.
What? For sure.
So okay. So when you bring in staff, people who are working with individuals, foster care or CFC, and y'all don't do group home. So there's a component of HCS where you can do a group home that you as the provider run, and you staff it, but you all don't do that particular part.
Yeah, we do group home. One of our group homes are full. Yeah, we're full right now. So the group homes with us is just like the capacity. You know what I mean? Like right now, but because we have great staff at that group home, and the people there, they're set, and so we get a lot of calls about that particular group home, but it's full right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's another ball game altogether.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's another ball game altogether.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not like running an assisted living facility at all. Not even close.
Not at all.
No. Okay. So as you're hiring staff, like what are your qualities? What are the things that you look for most in the staff that you hire or contract with?
Compassion. Do you care? So a lot of the times, like I feel like, and Charles can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for us, like the ultimate test or the best way to interview, if you will, is how you interact and engage with the individual. Like we've actually had, staff come by the office with their person, and it's like, how do you interact with them? How do you speak to them? If they get out of line or they say something, just kind of rude and disrespectful, how do you respond? Or if they are upset and they're really passionate about what they're saying in the moment, how do you respond? And our staff, we've seen them that they care, and they're like, they de-escalate the situation, because we've had situations to where individuals have been rowdy in that moment, like even just coming into the office, either something started before they got there or whatever the case may have been, or they got an upsetting phone call, upsetting text message, doesn't matter. And we pay attention to how the staff interacts with that person. Like, what are you saying? What are your words when you call just to talk about what's going on with them? How are you presenting? Even when you're frustrated, what are you saying? And for us, that helps us determine whether or not that person is a good fit to continue with them, or if, you know, maybe it's an isolated situation where they may have been having a bad day. But we base it off of like interaction. And then we factor in references. Many of our people have come by reference, or like I said, they already came with the person and they've been working with them for years. They had existing staff, but anybody that we had to find for them, we had references from before. Other people said how they were, and then we get to see it based on how they interact with the person. Or if it was an individual that was calling continuously before, then all of a sudden they got with the staff and we don't really hear from them like that anymore. We're like, okay, that's a good fit. They're quiet. No news is good news. That's all right.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Okay, so I've done some consulting with a few ACS providers, and there is a lack of general training for HCS providers. Yes, you go through your program manager training and you get info from Health and Human Services, but I mean, the level of training to get to person first, compliant, we know our business, we know how to help these people, that training is lacking. So as managing members of this organization, let alone for your staff, but how do you all keep yourselves abreast and trained on new empirical data that may tell you how to better serve your clients? Or just, yes, a regulatory provider letter may have come out, you may have read it, but how do you get that ingrained in your head that I got to make this change? Like, what are you all doing to make sure you stay on top of your game?
My goodness, we so HHSC, you can subscribe and they send out alerts about like any changing that's coming. So handling like the finance and everything, like the billing guidelines, they changed that recently. So it's a must to stay on top of the billing guidelines. It's attending the webinars that they do have. So they recently changed over to a new system back in the summer, and they're just now, I believe yesterday was the first webinar on that new system that they're saying that they're going to have monthly now. So it's always going to be like, I guess, a gap, if you will, in there. But what we've done is, and we've been blessed and fortunate enough to have a team. So when something new came about, honestly, we just kind of went in there and played around with it and trained ourselves and talked to each other. Charles and I continuously, day-to-day conversations, endless hours. Okay, well, what did you see? I found this. I was just in there clicking on some things, and then look what I can do, this and this. And he's like, well, I found that if you go down to the bottom, you can see this. And then I found a contact of a person that I can reach out to. And fortunately, the people involved in the new system, if you call in, they're very professional, very helpful, very friendly. They respond. And so it's really, honestly, trial and error, trying things out, seeing the alerts that they send, taking that and using a little bit of common sense, if you will, mixing that in a mixing bowl and throwing it in the blender and see what gets poured out. I mean, I don't know, for lack of better words, that's honestly how we've been doing it.
Yeah. And there's no manual on how to be an HCS provider, right? It's not. So as an HCS provider starts with relationship. And I think the reason we are so blessed and fortunate to be successful as we are, because we bounce a lot of things off of each other. I know there's a lot of providers out there, they may have questions, but who can they call? Who can they bounce something off of if they need to get some guidance about a new alert that came? They don't know. They just kind of have to take it at face value. But what Denise said, you know, we have subscribed to the alert. So once we get it, we go to the trainings. Most of the times Denise and I try to do it together.
Yep.
So afterwards, we're like, hey, this is what I got. Did you get the same thing? Well, we just gonna have to see. You know what I mean? But it's important to have a partner or a person within your agency where you can bounce those things off of, just to ensure that you are on the right track. And we've been fortunate enough to be on the right track, especially with the migration from CARE to TMHMP portal. That in itself was a complete eye opener. It was a great learning experience. Denise and I were fortunate enough to get ahead of it before it came. And then we found ourselves kind of training some other providers that didn't have someone to bounce things off of. And we were able to share that knowledge with other providers as well. So yeah, very important that they subscribe to those alerts.
Yes.
Read the information and just bounce it off of somebody.
Yeah. I love the fact that you said we trained some other providers.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I tell all of my clients, other providers are not your enemy.
Right.
You need to collaborate.
Absolutely.
There may be a resident, if you're in an assisted living facility, that you can't take, but you know somebody that can. There may be an individual that's not suited for your program, but suitable for another person's program. So working together and becoming interdependent instead of always assuming competition. And I'm one of those type of people. You're not my competition. I'm my competition.
Right.
Right. Something in me I'm trying to get past. Absolutely nothing to do with it. But even when it comes to business, obviously the world tells us we have competitors, this, and this. But I'm a firm believer that I'm a consultant. I know 5 other consultants. Those 5 other consultants aren't my competition.
Right.
You're somebody I need to know, because I guarantee you there have been clients that are not suited for me that I sent to someone else and they were able to get what they needed done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I really love that you still are taking time to pour into your community as a whole, of choosing, well, we're not going to help these people because they do the same thing as us. We don't have to do that. Speaks volumes about your character. Love that.
And that goes back to the model too: reach, teach, and encourage. That just isn't for a voice. That's for people that have their own agencies. Whatever we have, we feel that we're blessed to have that information, and we're going to share it. So if we can teach someone else and encourage them and give them information, we're going to do it. I've spoken to 3 different local authorities when the migration took place. They didn't know. So it was people even at the local authority that we were providing information to. We have to work together, you know what I mean, to make sure that these individuals' services are in place. That's very important. Very important.
Yep. Yeah, love that. So I already put Denise on the spot, and I'm putting you on the spot too. So we got I got the handbooks for assisted living facility, what you need to do to get in compliance, stay in compliance, get licensed. I'm putting y'all on the spot. We're gonna do this for ACS because you all have a wealth of knowledge that can be imparted to people and in their face so that they can run their assisted living facility. I mean, help me, that's what my brain is, run their ACS programs and living programs.
Right.
Okay. So when I reach out to you and I say, okay, it's time to put it together.
Yeah.
You know, we're a phone call away.
Yeah. You know.
I have tons of more questions just because I know there are providers who could use you all as the blueprint. That even though they may have been in business longer than you, because of how you operate and just the amount of success. Tell everybody how many clients y'all have now. We 5 years in. How many clients do we have?
Well, really three.
Three officially licensed, I mean, as a provider. But okay, so within 3 years, how many individuals are we serving now?
We're about 100 right now.
Yeah.
a good amount of people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Considering the amount of services y'all are offering.
right.
It's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're about 100 right now, and 100 more to come. And what's it's the number is okay. No, it's a blessing. Don't take that wrong. That's okay. We're not big on numbers. We just want to make sure that everybody's needs are being met.
Getting
Right.
that quality. They're getting that quality.
They're getting those quality services. And as you know, that as a provider, we can't advertise, we can't market. So a lot of the people that come to us is from word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, and that's very, very important to us. And we have been so fortunate, so blessed. I know it sounds cliche, I say it over and over, but it's so true that we have systems in place to ensure that census, it's okay, because there's systems in place, So once we stepped back and we said, hey, we got a system for case management, we got a system for nursing, operations has a system, and so does finance. So we're ready for our next 100 because we know exactly what to do in terms of intake, admission, and referrals. We have that, and we've been blessed with our experience with working at DADS and Metro Care and other private sectors to take all of that and create something such as a voice.
Absolutely.
You talking my language and you talking systems and processes. That's
You gotta have it.
So,
Yeah.
I appreciate the both of you for taking your time out. I will have both of you back on. I like to do maybe a 30-minute session with each of you on some specific things.
Okay.
Maybe how to run the billing, how to properly do intake, and give like a system for people. Something to model after.
Cool.
I'll be reaching out to both of you all for a bunch of things. I'm so proud of y'all.
Hey, we're proud of you too.
Yeah,
We're proud of you. You're out there helping ALFs, HCS providers. So you have that wealth of understanding and knowledge as well. So kudos to you. Continue doing what you're doing. We pray for you and that you continue getting more clients and you continue growing ROA, and it just takes over the state of Texas.
And blessing people. Your name's out there in a positive way. Even though right now you say you're on assisted living mode, but you're out there in terms of home community-based services, Texas Home Living. So, and it's always good when people mention you and they're like, that person there, really helped me or, gave me something that I'm able to take and pass on to the next person. That's what it's about, helping people.
That's good. Well, thank y'all for blessing me. Since y'all can't advertise, I'm gonna advertise. Okay?
That's why.
If you are an individual or you love an individual, or you're a caregiver to an individual that has the HCS waiver program, and you are looking for a provider that is going to serve from their heart, A Voice is the place to go. Okay, so you're gonna go to avoice.us. That is their website, avoice.us. I will post their information in the chat. I will also post their information in the link or description above this video. If you're in the state of Texas and you want somebody to love on your people, as your IDD babies, these are they. And if you know me, then you know Sean and John. Sean and John will be at a voice as soon as they come off.
Praise God.
Hey, we welcome.
All right. Love y'all to pieces. Thank y'all.
Love you back.